harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today, calling in from outside of Sacramento, California, is Ilene Dillon. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Alrighty. Yes. So, welcome to the show, Ilene. It's great to have you
Thank
here.
You.
So
it's wonderful to be here. I'm excited to share today.
Good.
We've already had a good talk leading up to it.
Yeah, I tell you, we have a lot of fun on this show. We share a lot of great things, and the audience is just falling in love with it. So, which is really, really great. So, what does Ilene do up there?
Well, I call myself semi-retired. But as you and I were talking right before the show, like you, I have been a full-time RVer since my husband died. He died in 2016, and by 2017, I was on the road in a 24-foot van with my little 8-pound Maltipoo, and I've been in 31 states and 4 Canadian provinces. And I've now written 2 books, one of which is published, and the other I'm in the process of publishing. And this is my COVID. I'm in my son's home. This is my COVID hideout, and he got me here, as I mentioned to you previously, by telling me I could grow the family vegetable garden. So, in addition to publishing my book and being on podcasts and writing blog posts and so forth, I've been running the family veggie garden and having a wonderful time. It's the one thing I couldn't do easily in the RV. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
been a nice break. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. You know, I think we all have shall we say, a COVID hangout, right? Because I know.
If you're lucky, people ask me, what has it been like? And I say, for me, it's been like a vacation. We live on open space, right on the edge of open space. There's a swimming pool. I've got a garden. It's a lovely home. My family that's loving, that is concerned for me. It's not a bad deal. So, but staying in, the other day I went to the doctor for a checkup kind of thing, and I walked in, and you had to keep a space from the receptionist. Right. And so she eventually asked me what I was there for. And I immediately blurted out, I have a reservation with Dr. So-and-so. And I caught myself, and I went, and the bed better be clean and the pillow soft. Because I realized it had been so long since I'd been out of the house that going to the doctor felt like I was on vacation.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I get you. That life on the road is so different from life in a, what should we say, a brick and mortar, right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
And, and if you've been doing it for an extended period of time, you've been doing it since 2017. I've been doing it since 1997.
Wow.
I know. I tell you, I've never regretted a day of it.
I know.
And
yeah,
I've been
wonderful.
in every 50 states, which is really awesome. I've been in different areas of Canada, which is really awesome. And, I've traveled overseas, and it's just been, it's the life, it's not for everyone. People like to take they get in that little RV and they, run around for a week or 2 on vacation, or maybe they'll go for a 6-month jaunt. But life on the road is so different. One of the things that I really liked about it was you can't collect a lot of junk.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that was one of my primary motives going in. After I cleaned out our 3-bedroom house when my husband passed away,
Right.
It took me a year to do it. And I just said, that's it. We only need one of these and one of those, and that can be thrown away.
Yeah. Oh, you go shopping, or you're with friends or something, and you're out looking at, window shopping, whatever. And say, ooh, I like that. That's kind of cool, right? And he said, well, why don't you get it? I said, oh, huh. I just admire it from here because ain't got space. It's so nice to say,
exactly.
Ain't got space. It's like,
exactly.
Oh my goodness, that is so true, so true. But it's an interesting life. The beauty that is around us is just, I guess I'm a nature freak. I love being in nature. I really, really do. Last year at this time, I was up in the northeast part of the United States where I had hit and missed a few, states up in that kind of, sort of, close to that corner. But last fall, covered them all, which is really kind of nice, right? And the colors were beautiful, and we had a great time. But now I can say I've been in all the states, and I'll have to admit, my heart is in the western part of the United States. It just is. It just is. I grew up in the Midwest on a farm, but never looked back. When I left there in '79, it's like, see ya, and won't be back. You're right. I mean, I still have family members and stuff back there, so once in a while you have to go back that direction or whatever, and traveling, you kind of pass through, so you stop in for a minute or two. But I don't know if you came from a big family. I have 10 brothers and sisters, so we're kind of scattered all over the place, right? Which is a lot of fun as well. But
there were 4 of us, bigger than many families now. But and a lot of my family lives either in North Carolina or in Texas, and the remainder is in California. I have 4 stepdaughters, and one of them I adopted because her mom died when she was 12. So they're all in California, and my son is also. So I kind of I have somebody on the West Coast, somebody in the middle of the country, and somebody on the East Coast.
I know
it's
go ahead.
As you know, I've made friends everywhere. So I was thinking about getting back out on the road, and there's so many people who have decided that they're going to try RVing now. It's really exploded as a result of COVID.
Right.
And I realized that I know enough people with land and have invitations to stay so that I don't really have to be worried about that, which is comforting. I do have solar, and I can boondock for up to 2 weeks.
That's great, and I hear you, because you make friends all over. And I'll tell you, this show, I've been doing this show since March of this year is when I put this show on. I mean, I've done shows before, but this one was different. I wanted to have just a theme, and I wanted to have that professional look, and the whole thing. And it started before the COVID, but it's been interesting where it's gone in just a few short months, and the people that I have met, oh my gosh, they are just amazing. I mean, there's so many wonderful people out there that, getting the message out, and everybody said, oh my gosh, you got to come and see me. Oh, you got to come over here. We got space for you. We really got space for you. You come, and all this stuff. It just warms your heart,
It does. Yeah.
And,
great.
To be able to have that connectedness in a world of disconnect, shall we say, is refreshing. And when we look at the era that you and I come out of, the baby boomers, I mean, we're like the heart of the baby boomers, right? And see what's going on in the world today. Never in our wildest dreams, I'm sure you can agree with this, that we would see anything remotely close to this.
Well, yes, it's been a wild ride. I will say that.
Yeah.
I always thought I was a baby boomer, but I was actually born in 1942, which is part of the silent generation. And that term does not apply to me, so I'll claim the baby boomers.
You're close enough, we'll let you in.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You have a special invite as of today. You are officially invited into the baby boomer.
See how wonderful people are.
There you have it. If anybody gives you any guff, you just send them my way.
Alrighty.
Alrighty then.
I'll do that.
So, Now, you mentioned that you have written a couple of books. So what's the book that you got out there, and what's the book that you got coming out? Because I'm always into books. We have a lot of authors on this show. I've done books myself. I actually have one I'm finishing up, or actually two of them that I'm finishing up right now. So this is kind of cool.
Great, great. Well, I worked in California for 50 years as a clinical social worker and a marriage and family therapist. And so I've worked with thousands of people and their problems and their issues. But even more important, I'm a recovered angry person. And many years ago, when something happened in my life and I began to spew anger in all directions, I was a single parent. That's part of what happened.
Yeah.
And I this anger was going on to my child, and so I started a search to find out the answer to questions like where do emotions come from? What are they all about? Why do we get so angry? Can we get rid of them? Those kinds of questions. And nobody around me had the answers. I went to the University of California School of Social Welfare library and searched for days with the reference librarian, and there were no answers to those questions. So I began a search to figure out the answers myself. You know, I could read and I could work with my
Right.
clients and I could talk with my colleagues. I had a lot of resources. And what happened is I now consider myself a recovered angry person. And in the process, I learned a lot about emotions. At least I created, or more like identified. I didn't create it. I identified
Right.
what emotions are all about. And what they're about is that we're actually this is the bare bones of the system I came up with, Beverly, is that we're all living in a big giant school. That's what the earth is. We all come here in order to learn and grow.
Right.
And we learn through having experiences. And whenever we have an experience, emotions come with the experience. And what the experiences are about is that they are offering us a lesson, like COVID is offering us lessons at this point. People are talking about we're slowing down. We're seeing where people are working well and where they're not working well.
Right.
We're needing to spend time with ourselves, and all kinds of crap is coming up from inside of us. Right. So there's a lot of learning. Well, the emotions come up because every emotion carries a message for us that helps us to navigate through these lessons, right? Loneliness, for example, most people think that loneliness is attached to being alone. It's not.
Nope.
You can be in a crowd, you can be in a marriage and still feel lonely. What loneliness is about is that we have more of our energy going out than coming back in. And it's a message that we need to take energy in. And as soon as you do, and the best way to do that is by doing something you have a talent for, right? As
Right.
soon as you bring energy in, you stop feeling lonely. So I'm sure people have told you, oh gosh, you have such courage for getting out on the road. You must be lonely. And you go, what?
Yeah,
What are we
it's like,
talking about
oh
here?
heck no! I have me, myself, and I. I'm like, you know, it gets crowded
Right,
sometimes.
right.
Oh, I
And
love what you're saying here, Eileen. I mean, it's speaking to my heart because as I'm listening to your story, I'm thinking, wait a minute, she's talking about me, right? And I'm sure some of our
oh,
listeners can agree with that as well. And when you talk about anger, that's where my start came. I had so much anger. Oh my gosh. And let me tell you, when I started busting loose, I gave God a piece of my mind, and let me tell you, it was a piece. you know?
good.
And, so getting that anger out, to be able to recognize it. But I love how you made that expression of it because it's so true. My journey started back in the 70s, and there wasn't anything available, like you
Me
said.
too. That's when mine started. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you were in California. I was in Iowa, and there's still, so I mean, you look at that arena, it just, there was no information. The only piece of information you could, had any idea to go to would be, like mental health or something like that. And then, God forbid, that was a stigma in itself, right?
But I was in the mental health industry, right?
Yeah.
I was a licensed clinical social worker and a marriage and family therapist. And here's what I discovered. Even therapists didn't know the answers to
Exactly.
those questions. And the
Exactly.
reason they didn't is we did a survey from my office of 37 schools and universities in California asking this question. Do you now or have you ever had a standalone course on anger? How many of the 37 do you think had ever
Probably
offered a course?
zero.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Zero. So even therapists, and even now, a lot of people cannot answer these questions,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Except if you keep in mind that emotions are with us 24/7, 365, from birth to death. Even if you have Alzheimer's, you keep your emotions.
Oh,
And we know so little about them. It's
right.
appalling.
Right, and that's kind of been my journey too, is working with the emotions. And I've actually created what I call the rah-rah system, which helps you undetonate the charge of the emotion. The emotion is going to be there. It's, do
You
you
can't get rid
fuel
of
it?
it, right?
How do you fuel it? And again, when you talked about lessons being learned, an emotion is part of that lesson. So it's okay, recognize those emotions, but the thing is what I have found and discovered on my journey is when you take the fuel from the emotion coming from your past and bring it to your present, everything is so much more distorted and totally out of control. So when you can leave the fuel of that emotion from all those past experiences behind you, and now take care of the emotion that's relevant in the experience you're currently having, wow, the impact
Well,
really shifts.
that's really true. What most people don't understand, let's just take anger, for example.
That's a big one.
Uh, a lot of people will get angry, explode, then they feel terrible about it, and they promise themselves they won't do it anymore.
Right.
And so they start keeping it inside. Well, anytime you keep an emotion inside, emotions are energy. Emotions
Yes.
follow the laws of energy and they're made to move. So anytime you hold them inside, you're not letting them move. And what do? They build in power. Uh,
Right.
I like that you're saying they're coming from the past, which they do, but they're building in power. And after a while, anger is our most active emotion. So it's constantly looking for where's a place I can get out here. And it
Right.
may go into one of your, uh, into your liver or something where it
Yeah, anger
may
is
find a
actually
weak
stored in
spot.
that liver area, right?
Yeah.
And
Uh,
so when you look at some of the slang, being
yeah.
pissed off and things like that. So your
Right.
anger is in that gallbladder and in that liver arena, and
Right.
and so you look at all the different destructions that come from that, right? And
Right.
then it goes into the pancreas, right? And now what's that all about? It's the home to, say, diabetes, right? Which is what, the lack of sweetness in your life, and so when you start to really look at how emotions impact that body and where they're
Right.
stored, anger will not hurt someone on the outside. So you may be angry with somebody out there and you think that staying angry with them is going to impact them.
They don't even notice
It
it.
goes in here, right? It goes in
Right.
here. It all starts
That,
at home, right?
the old
So,
saying is that anger poisons the vessel in which it is held.
yes, and that's true with
Yeah.
any emotion,
Yes.
regardless of that, and so it will break down the body. And so
Uh-huh.
emotional healing, is great. And so it's awesome what you're doing now, coming from that direction, of in the mental health, arena, and getting that understanding. And I come from like the alternative direction in metaphysics. But when you put those two together, it's
Well,
like a mirror.
I do put those two together in my
Yeah.
book. The book is called Emotions in Motion, and it's available on Amazon in both soft, paperback and
And Kindle.
an ebook form.
Right.
And so where I have gotten is usually emotions play a big part in our lives. Let's say the big part is
Right.
this big, and like you said, we can't get rid of emotions, but they're reduced down to about this in my life. Something comes up. I know there's something for me to learn. Here's what happens, Beverly. When we have an experience, either we're too busy or it's overwhelming or we
Right.
don't want to look. And so the lesson comes up through our experience and we put it off. Well, it doesn't go away, it circles around and comes back, right?
Hmm.
And we can do that several times, but every time it comes back, it's a harsher experience.
That's
It's
right,
more
because it's picked
painful,
up momentum, right?
right?
And like you
So it's
said,
more painful.
yeah. So emotions being, um, they're magnetic, right? We're an electromagnetic being, and so what fuels that emotion? A lot of it isn't even your stuff, but it's familiar, and so when that fuel comes by, it grabs and attaches to it. And like you say, when it comes to the forefront again, it's intensified, and it keeps on intensifying. So when you look at what's going on here in 2020, where a lot of people now are, you know, isolated, within their own, square little box, what they call home, right? It's given people a lot more excess time to themselves that they never had before. And now these emotions are coming around full fledged, right? And they're coming around faster and faster. And people are having to look at them and they don't know how to look at them. They don't want to look at them because the
That's
pain
what
has
my book is
increased,
about.
and that is so much needed. And I see that happening. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because we're so much on the same page. And I love it that you're bringing out. What's your second book going to be called?
Well, I want to finish just a little bit on
Sure.
this. All right. The point is that because we're in school, uh, this is a lesson that needs to be learned, and the universe just keeps presenting it until we finally. Usually, people don't change until the pain of where they are is so great they think it couldn't be any worse if
Right.
they change, and then they
Right.
change. Okay, so the thing is, the second you learn the lesson, I mean, just like that, you don't have to keep repeating that pain anymore, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. So
Right.
when you see the world as a giant school, when some experience brings you a lesson and you know this is going to keep coming until I learn it, what you do is you say, okay, here's the lesson. What do I need to learn? What could I be possibly be trying to teach myself by having this experience?
Right.
And when you look at it that way, you learn the lesson and you go through it. And what happens is it becomes easier and easier and easier to go through your lessons. So I want to really make sure that that's possible. And in my book, I have the message of 12 different emotions and emotional states. I want to say, if people would write me at Ilene, at emotionalpro.com. I have a paper that I wrote. It's called Transformational Chaos, and it's about the process that we go through when we get isolated and spend time to
Right.
ourselves, right? So if anybody's interested in understanding, because it's a three-stage process,
Right.
and once you start on it, you can't turn around and go back. So you might as well know how it works and what you can do to go on through it. I've been through that process and I've helped thousands of people through it.
Well, when you
Uh,
take yourself through a process like that, both of us are in that vicinity, right? We've done it to ourselves, so we have firsthand experience, so to speak, right? And there's more than one way to skin a cat, shall we say? And sometimes one way is easier for someone than another because they can relate to it. That's why there's a lot of different options. So thank you so much for sharing that. So if people want to get that option that you've made available to understand some of this stuff, they may be able to resonate with that language more so, say, than someone else. So can you give that site again so that they can go ahead and get that?
Just write me an email. Say chaos on the line, CHAOS, and it's Ilene, ILENE, at Emotional Pro, like professional, Emotional Pro, all written out, .com. And I will send that to you. A lot of people have found it very helpful. I ended up writing it because I was helping so many people through it. Now I'll go to your next question. My book that I'm editing now and in the publishing process is about manipulation.
Oh, wow. And that's a good one. That's a good one, Ilene. I love that one. Oh, my gosh.
Because my contention, my learning over the years is that, excuse me, is that everybody, all of us, are born manipulative.
Oh,
we have
my
to
gosh.
be manipulative because our bodies and brains are not sufficiently developed. And so we have to have what I call an agent, which is usually a parent. This agent brings us food and keeps us dry and gives us a warm, comfortable place to sleep.
Right.
And we are designed as human beings to outgrow this. We start on this trajectory about the age of 2. Little 2-year-olds go, me do it myself. But they're not capable of doing it fully. But by the time they're 3 or 4 years of age, they can pull a blanket up, they can get something out of the refrigerator, they can ask. And so from that point on, we are designed to put more and more of our energy through ourselves and less through agents, right? But kids need help. And nobody told anybody that kids need help. So very few kids get it. If you look in our world, it's just overrun with manipulation.
Gosh, right? You know, and the manipulation, I think, right alongside of this, and let me know if you agree or not. With manipulation, is it's a training. It's like a programming, and it removes the responsibility from the self, and so you can blame someone else if it doesn't go right.
Well, it's a total relinquishment of
personal power. Yeah. Yes.
Responsibility and personal power. Yeah. But we're born that way. So unless somebody points out to us that we can have power in our lives, we don't know it. Right. And here's the thing. There are 3 reasons I've identified that we don't make this shift. One is that parents don't know, so they don't say, here, you take responsibility here. 2 is that many parents think that asking a young child to take responsibility is too much for that child. It's not, but they think so. Right. But 3, and the primary one, is that the parents themselves have never outgrown manipulation. Now, as a baby, if I don't have an agent, if I don't have somebody to fill my needs, I'm going to die, right?
Right.
So the bottom line is that we continue to grow our bodies up, but we believe that we can't get our needs met unless somebody else does it for us, right?
Right. Now, would you say that also attaches to a lot of the anxiety things that are happening in today's world, you know, for the last several decades?
Because such people don't have substance to who they are. They're not. They don't feel like they can rely on themselves or figure things out or finish things or create what they need to create in their lives. And so, essentially the person is empty.
Right.
So what generally happens is people go ahead and their bodies grow up and they look like they're adults, but emotionally they're younger than 3 or 4 years of age.
Right.
And one of the big problems we have in our world is domestic violence, abuse.
Oh, it has gotten so prevalent. And now since 2020, the percentages have just gone up, the sexual abuse and, like you say, the domestic violence. It's crazy. And and again, spending time with the self when you're not comfortable in this skin bag. Houston has a problem. And I know when I started my journey with going back into the anger thing, right? That was once I got that fuel of that anger out of the way, it gave me an opportunity to look differently at what was going on in my life, as well. And I had lost my identity. This is why I call myself an identity revelation specialist, because what I'm hearing you saying as you're just, as you're talking about manipulation is, where's your identity? People in the world today, especially the last 3 decades, I think is more, prevalent than say, after that, is identity. We have kids raising kids, the latchkey generation, because we had a lot of single parents out there, and it's not pointing fingers or having fault at it. It's just, it was the sign of the times of what was happening. And all of a sudden, wow, we look at what's going on now, and it's like, wow, look what we did. There has to be a way to create this shift, and I think 2020 was part of that wake-up call. But
Absolutely.
Being able to get the word out there, like what you're doing and sharing, with clients and with your books and the presentations and things like that, I personally, I feel it's our generation that's going to make the greatest impact to pass down that wisdom that has been built. We weren't born with it. We had to learn it as well. And we've investigated and we've done the trial runs. We've gone through the pain and the agony, and we're giving you, this younger generation, these last, 3-4 decades, an opportunity to say, hey, wow, you don't have to go through what we went. We got some shortcuts for you. Are you ready to pay attention? Right?
I don't think that it's only the last 3 generations. I co-host a program called Ask the Experts with a couple of women that's aimed at people 50 and 55 and over.
Right. Oh yeah, it's still there.
They don't have the information either.
Right.
Nobody got taught this information. And so what I do in my book, Beverly, is I give a whole list of how you can. The first part of the book is, this is what manipulation is about. This is how it happens. This is how you can recognize somebody manipulating. And this is how you manipulate yourself, right?
Oh my gosh, that's like so key, because we do that.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, the second part of the book is how to end your own manipulation, because the aim of my book is to tell people, look, by the time you get to be 18 or 20 years old, you're designed not to manipulate anymore. And here's how you do it. And basically, you do it by spending time alone and building what you have inside. That transformational chaos paper that I talked about,
right,
helps you to understand how to do that. And so it's kind of like the Farmer in the Dell song, the cheese stands alone.
Now you really date ourselves here.
Yeah.
But that, there's a lot of truth in that song. It's interesting when you look at lyrics and poetry from previous times, how relevant it is in today's world when you really understand what that message is. So somebody knew something at that time. It just didn't meet the masses, so to speak, right?
Well, I think we've known something even like from early Greek times.
People civilizations.
People have tried to put this stuff out. However, we are in a time, when you go to the metaphysical level, we are in a time where we have the full potential of moving into a different way of living. Right. And that's one of the reasons that I'm pushing so hard with my material, is because it's easier now to move into being loving, to move into not needing to use somebody else's energy in order to try to live your life. It's easier now than it's ever been. And it's time, we need to do this now. And as I've seen in my own life, it's so much easier.
Oh my goodness, you got that right.
Yeah, it's so much easier. I just want to say to people, look, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to be miserable. You don't have to have things go wrong. Almost everything can go right and be easy and be joyful. Just, stop resisting and go with the way things are set up.
Right. Now that's a powerful word, resisting, right? And I talk about it in my books and in my conversations and things about surrendering to the circumstances, right? So it's that conflict. It's okay to surrender. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender
Right.
means now what you've done is you understand what the conflict is, where it's coming from, and let the conflict disappear. You win the war, and that's part of that discovery, that self-discovery of who you really are and the depth of those levels. So
Mhm.
letting go of that conflict is so powerful. And it actually has been proven in science that it takes a lot more energy to stay upset than it does to stay happy. So we talk, anger, there's so many forms of anger and the intensities of anger, right? And then you have joy, and there's a lot of intensities of joy. And so when you can't have both. We're in this duality world.
Not
You
at the
can't have
same
both at
time.
the same time. Nope. You're
Right.
either you're either over here in your anger or you're over here in your joy. And you have to ask yourself, where do you want to be? You want to be in anger, you want to be in joy, because it takes a whole lot
Yep.
more work, and it depletes, and it really makes you tired when you're over here in that anger. You just test it yourself. Try to force yourself to stay angry and see how tired you get. Then go to joy and do everything that you know that's going to make you joyous and happy, and see if that doesn't pick your energy up. Watch a little child.
Right.
Why is a child so energized? Because they're happy all the time, right? So
Yep.
we have to pay attention to things like that. I work in the world of virtual reality. Are you familiar with that, Eileen?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and the mental health institutions have been using it for quite a few years
Yes.
now, right?
Yes, they
So
have.
you so
Yeah.
you understand that part of it. Well, we're taking the gaming platform, changed it into education, into business, into relationships, and into entertainment, to where we can connect, and oh my gosh, the connection is so much needed now. We have the Zoom fatigue, and we have webinar fatigue, and we have just that internet static. We talk about static, which triggers the stressors in the brain, right? So when you work in the virtual reality realm, you're immersed, and you don't need the Oculus glasses. The platform we use is just straight on the computer screen, but the immersion of avatar to avatar, person to person, is so real to life that the mind actually says, oh wow, there's somebody next to me. I know this person because I recognize their voice, and the comfortability and the being, the connectedness, because there's no separation anymore, is phenomenal. And that really plays a role in the psyche and in the mind elevation and in the emotional aspect of what you're talking about. Because I know that the mental health has worked a lot with PTSDs and phobias and anxieties and real intense, emotional traumas, and especially a lot of them, from abusive situations, and they use it in the military. So it's been around for a long time. It just hasn't been kind of on the format that we've turned it into. And we started this in February, and then the pandemic hit.
Well, I
It's
think
like,
it's great that you're doing that. My way of relating to what you're talking about is you're stimulating the imagination. So
right,
I have
exactly.
had the experience of being able to do that. Just for example, let me give you a little story. When I was in my 70s, I had a really rough childhood. I was taken from my birth mother before I turned 3, and uh, my dad was in the military, and it just was really rough, right? And I had worked to try to ingratiate myself to my stepmother, which pretty much was impossible because she was a person you couldn't ingratiate with. Uh, but when I got to be about 35, 37 years old, I went through this period of time where I realized that for all the work that I had done trying to get along with people and have a family, I was an orphan. I didn't
Right.
have parents. And so I was crying one day, and a friend of mine, a very wise friend, called me. And she said, "What's going on?" And I told her, "I've tried my whole life. I'm still being an orphan." And she started laughing. And she said, "I can't believe you think you're an orphan when you're always digging in the dirt and growing plants." She said, "The problem for you is that you're thinking too small about who your mother is. Your mother is Mother Earth, right?
Oh, I just got chills all over my body. Oh
Isn't that
my
great?"
gosh.
Right. So she said, "What I want now, we're living in California. Well, what I want you to do is I want you to go to the beach. I want you to take off your shoes. I want you to plant them in Mother Earth and feel the energy of Mother Earth coming up inside of you because that's your true mother."
Oh,
All right.
wow.
So
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to leave my house, and one of these monsoon type rains occurs. And I go, "I am not going to the beach in this." So instead, I went back to my bed, I laid down, and I imagined going to the beach
Mm-hmm.
and burying my feet. And it changed everything. I took Mother Earth as my mother. I've never had that issue again. And I did it just in my brain.
And the mind is a powerful thing, and that's another whole topic we could talk for hours on, right? Because
Right,
what the mind can conceive and believe, it definitely can achieve, right?
right.
And so and thank you for sharing that story because it is very powerful and there's a strong message in that. And when, like you said, with virtual reality, it's taking the imagination and bringing it to life. And this is kind of what we've done. And now more than ever in this 2020 year, we brought this out to the masses at a perfect timing. So we have schools looking at us right now. We've got businesses. We actually have ministries. We've got entertainment. And we've created a networking group. And that's kind of what it started out as Digital Business International, was bringing people together with people. And wow, we need that more now than ever. But that imagination to be able to jump into that avatar world that really isn't that far fetched from what the real world is. It's like jumping out of your skin, jumping into another skin, but now you're looking from the outside into the world of who you are, and the healing that's taking place is so remarkable and so
Oh, that's
fast,
wonderful.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
happening so fast because it's real. The mind says that's real. And then, because when you can make that avatar and allow that avatar to do whatever it wants in there, that becomes the realness of the human element that you are. The more you do that in the virtual reality aspect, it comes back into the real world. So people who have had fears, getting on stages, because we'll put you on an international stage and spread your word across the globe, right? And when you can stand on that stage and start sharing that message and the power and the confidence that you have with it, after you do that a few times, you can come out here in the present world and you can get on that stage and you have no issues. So it really works together and it works so fast.
That's great. Well, I am a professional speaker, and I have come to the conclusion that the problem that most of us have with getting on the stage is one with manipulation.
It is,
Because
that's
in
exactly right. It does go back to that. Yeah.
because in manipulation, what we do is I become the person I think you want me to be, so
Yep.
you'll give to
Yep.
me. And when I get up on the stage, I'm faced with all these people, and I can't be that many different people at the same time. So unless I have a job, like I'm the secretary or I'm the
Right.
comic or something, I can't do it. And what you're talking about is really helping people fill up their
Yeah,
selves,
because
their
they can
own
really,
internal
yeah,
selves.
they can just be
Yeah,
that expression of themselves,
yes,
and it doesn't matter.
right.
And
It's
again, too, that
brilliant.
self consciousness, because we have
Hmm.
that manipulation, that judgment upon the self. It's like, oh, is my
Hmm.
hair okay? Is my makeup okay? Are my clothes okay? All of these different things, all that chatters, run, 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 run. Well, when you're in this little avatar and you're standing on this big stage, I mean, you're just going for it, and the power. It's so amazing to watch that confidence build, and like you say, it does move that manipulation away. So, oh my gosh,
Right.
Ilene, we could go on here forever. We're coming up on the hour. I can't believe this time has gone so fast. Oh my God, we have got to have you on again and talk more about this. It's just,
Yeah, we talked about resetting your age thermometer, so we need to have some
oh
time to
gosh,
talk about aging too.
yeah, because we don't age. We don't, that's not an option for us, right? Like I say, my perfect age is 45, and I've been 45 for a really long time, and I tend to be 45 for a really longer time, right? So,
Wow, that's great. That's great. I had a mother who never would get past 40. It was very funny to me. She promised, because her family had medical issues. She said, "Oh, I'm going to be dead by 40."
uh-huh.
Instead, she gave birth to my younger sister when she was 40, and she's now 102. And she's the only one of her generation still living in our family.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And it happens. Again, it's age is a mindset. I had a gentleman that I spent 18 years of my life with who actually helped me raise my children because he was a great dad, right? And he hadn't had the option to be a father for circumstances, but and he stayed in their lives. And he told me he was always saying that he was going to be gone by 45 because that was in the genes and whatever. And he lived to be. See, he's been gone now 8 years, so he was getting close to that 70 mark, But which is really kind of cool. But again, it is a mindset,
Absolutely, and you can affect it. So
Yes.
let's talk about that on another
Yes.
at another time. I'd love to talk with you about it. It's been fun to work with. I started working with it when I was 40, so I've worked with it
See,
for 38 years
45.
now.
45 is that magic number. I'm telling you. 45 is a magic, and I'm into numerology. I don't know if you're into numerology, but you take 45, you add together, that's
a
9, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's
all that is.
That's all that is, that's the feeny before you start over, right? And man, I just think 45 is like the bomb. And I've had several people on my show that we've talked about that off and on, and they're like, yeah, it was like life began at 45. Yes, it did. So,
But
oh
then
my
you can
gosh.
sort out all the emotional issues.
That's
maybe.
right. Maybe. It's an ongoing journey.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. However, what I want to offer people is no matter what's happened to you, it can get much easier. You're speeding it up even more than I am, but a lot of people want to tap emotions away or meditate them away. But once you understand that they have a message for you, you want to partner
Right.
with them,
Right.
learn from them, and then let them go.
That's right. Yep, and I agree. So we're on the same page with that. So for now, Ilene, how do people get a hold of you again?
It's Ilene, ILENE, at emotionalpro.com, and my website is emotionalmasteryforlife.com, all written
Well,
out.
Emotional Mastery for Life. Sounds
Yes,
great.
and
And if all else fails, just reach out to her in the comments below.
thank you.
So thank you so much for being on the show. We will definitely have you back and talk about another segment. God, we could do a whole series on that, So thank you again for being here. It's time to say go out there, be
My
that
pleasure.
best you that you could be, because Ilene and I are going to be the best we that we can be. We'll see you all on another show. Bye for now.
Bye.